Hello and welcome back. In this video we're going to talk about the general form of an equation of a circle. In the previous video you looked at the standard form, which is what we have right here in the example. But the general form is when we expand this out and we have no parentheses and everything is equal to 0. Now the general form is usually found when we have everything been worked out. And in this video we're going to do a couple examples. The first one is going to be going over how to change a standard form to a general form. So what we're going to do here is we're just going to expand this. We're going to write this out, x minus 1 times x minus 1, because that's what squaring does. And the second part will be y minus 3 times y minus 3 equals 25. So that's expanding out my standard form. Now we're just going to do FOIL on this. The first two terms, it will be x squared. Outside two terms is x times negative 1, which is negative 1x. We're going to get that twice. Inside we'll also get negative 1x, and the last two terms positive 1. In the second set here we're going to have y squared for the first two terms. That's y times y. Outside is y times negative 3, which is negative 3y. And we're going to get that also for the inside pair here, right there, this pair. And then the last two terms are going to be 9. So this is expanded out using FOIL. First outside, inside, last. Now we would just combine like terms. So in this case, these are alike, these are alike. And we'd also want to subtract this 25 from 9. So we'd go minus 25 here to make that 0, minus 25 here, so that we can then have our standard or general form. So we have x squared minus 2x, and we're going to combine this 1 into 9 and then subtract 25. So this 1 and 9 will be combined first. Then we're going to subtract 25 from it. So that's 10 minus 25, so we're going to get negative 15 as our constant. And then we'll have y squared from here minus 6y. So this is what we have, and if we want to write it in standard form, we would, or general form, we'd put the x squared first, the y squared second, the x next, the y in the next position, and the 15, the constants last. So this is general form from the standard form. So the standard form is up here. If we expand out doing FOIL and combine like terms, moving the 25 over, we'll get the general form. So we have to do that in reverse. If we start with the general form, we have to reverse this process to get the standard form. That's a little bit more difficult to do. We have to use a method of completing the square. So completing the square is the method we're going to use. I'm going to use this example to show the process of completing the square. What we want to do is we want to find something where we have x minus a times x minus a equaling our form, so that we get x minus a squared. And the formula is x minus h, but in this is the same type of example. I want to work my way backwards to get this. So what we would do is we have to create this a squared right here, this a squared, this a times a. So usually when we start this process, we would first write all the x's first. Okay, my problem is working against me here. So let's work on erasing this and starting again. So we have x squared minus 6x. I'm not sure exactly what's happening with my computer here. This is not Okay, 6x. We leave a space to complete the square. We write the minus or plus y squared plus 2y next. Leave a space to complete the square. And then we move the 9 to the other side. We subtract 9 from each side. So that would be my first step, is to move that 9 over so that it's over on the other side. So in the process of completing the square, we want to get something here that when we multiply it together, we're going to get a value that's going to, the two terms are going to be adding up to this negative 6x, because when we do FOIL on this thing, we'll get an ax here and an ax here, a negative ax and a negative ax, which is really negative 2ax in the middle. So we're going to get twice as much in the middle. So this term actually is going to be half of this term. So we take half of this term, negative 6 divided by 3, and then we have to make sure that we square it, because a times a is what's the last term when we do this FOIL on it. So we have to square this value. So this is going to be negative 2 squared, which is, I'm sorry, yeah, half, not a third. So this is half of the term. This is going to be negative 3 squared. Half negative 3 squared, which is 9. So we would add 9 here to complete the square. But since this is an equation, we also have to add 9 to the other side of the equation to keep it balanced. Now this part right here can be factored into x minus 3 and x minus 3. We've created a factor that's exactly alike. In this case, a would be 3 each time, because negative 3 times negative 3 is the 9 we inserted. And then when we do the outside and the inside, the outside and the inside, we're going to get negative 3x both times, which is going to give us a middle term. And our x squared is going to come from the FOIL. First term of the FOIL. So we're really going to end up with x minus 3 squared, which is first part of the standard equation. And then we're going to do the exact same thing over here, but we're going to use this term. We're going to create something from that term. So as before, we're going to take the middle term 2, divide it in half, and square it, which is going to be 1 squared, which is 1. That's what we're going to add to this term right here in order to complete the square. And remember, this has to be added on the left side. It also has to be added on the right side. So we end up with that. Now this term, this part right here, can be factored just like we factored the first 3 parts, the first 3 terms into that part. So this part here factors into y plus 1 times y plus 1, which is going to be y plus 1 squared. So that means we have the first part of the standard equation. Now what's nice is this side over here was equal to 1. Negative 9 plus 1 is equal to 1. So that tells us from this equation that our center is 3, negative 1. From here, it's the opposite of this term and the opposite of that term. And our radius of this circle is equal to the square root of 1, which is also 1. 1 unit radius in a center of 3, negative 1. And we did that from this example here, and we used the process of completing the square. Completing the square is creating this square binomial. And we did it twice because we had to do it once for the x terms and once for the y terms. Alright, so that's how you complete the square. And that's how we get general form into standard form, which then we can find the center and the radius.